Hey, what's up, everyone? It's so good to see everyone coming to this Zoom call. So we're gonna get started very soon. I have a few questions for everyone, and gonna share some updates about Headstarter and how we've been growing the team and what we're looking to do in the future. We're gonna introduce Hassan, and we're gonna run down how the mock interview is gonna go. We have selected 1 to 2 volunteers to go where with Hassan, who are gonna do a live one-on-one mock interview. Uh, I would suggest they do a Google Doc, and then we'll see Hassan give them feedback. So thank you so much for coming out here. You could have also going to create a live Q&A. So any questions you have about the mock interview process, about the feedback process, you can ask in the Q&A. And towards the end of the session, we're going to respond and try to answer all the questions or as many questions as we can. Okay, so I am going to run a poll and I'm going to ask you guys a question. So the first question is, how many lead code has everyone here done? Drop your response in the poll. We're gonna leave this open for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. Okay. Looks like we have people answer the question. So I'm going to share the results in the poll. So most people looks like have done less than 50 problems, 50% of people. And then 25% have done less than 150, and 4% have done over 450 lead code questions. That's incredible. That's amazing. So that's great. Now, oh, here, let's share the results. Okay, yeah, so these are the results. Now we're gonna do another question, another poll. So, guys, there we go. Are you guys ready for today's live mock interview? Are you guys ready? All right, we're gonna give this another 30 seconds. Okay, let's bring. Okay, awesome. All right, looks like everyone's very ready for the mock interview. All right, so before we begin, we're going to have two quick announcements. So here's the quick results. The first quick announcement is we're going to have chat disabled for the mock interview. However, you guys can ask a lot of questions. So questions are completely open. Feel free to ask questions. Whoever attends this recording or RFZP to Luma, we're going to try to give you guys access to this recording. And we're going to upload the recording. So earlier, before like about 30 minutes ago, hey, if this Zoom is full in capacity, you can go ahead and join our YouTube live stream. So our recording for today directly on YouTube. It actually already is. So it'll be available within like a few minutes. Um, okay. The next thing is want to share some quick updates about Headstarter since last summer. So last summer we had a people sign up for our 7 week fellowship, where we had asked everyone to create projects from scratch, and it was actually way more than we thought. We thought there would be like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people apply, but we had 60,000 people apply, which was way more than we ever would thought of. So since then, we've been taking a lot of feedback, and we love feedback, and we actually want some of your feedback today. So before we even dive into any of this live interview and mock interview stuff, if there's any feedback that you have, I'm going to drop a form in the form. I'm going to drop a form in the chat, and would love for you guys to share, any thoughts or any suggestions you have for Headstarter. Our team now is growing, so we had just hired a software engineering intern. Potentially, we might hire some more software engineering interns for the summer and the fall. We're also hiring for a lot of companies. So Headstarter today is a place where you can become a really, really good software engineer. But also, if you're starting a company, you've raised money, or many companies who have already raise money and are looking to hire, we're their technical recruiter. So we have made 11 placements so far, and we're hoping to make a couple more every week. So if you think you are in a position to interview and you're excelling in not just like the lead code stuff, but especially your actual coding skills, and you have built a portfolio and you really are in the block to want to get some more offers or at least interviews, I'd love to make a referral. We have a job board online. And currently, the job board is for our existing residents. So Headstarter has a program that's 4 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And this summer, we're going to launch something very special, but I'm not going to disclose anything in this call today. We're still kind of prepping up and hyping up for that launch that we're going to do this summer. But if you think you're ready for interviewing, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. We have many jobs that are mostly private, but we have some that we've made public. So I will share a few jobs that we're hiring for. Just keep in mind the general philosophy for Headstarter is that let me share to everyone. Okay, here's our job board. Again, this is live on our website. The general philosophy for Headstarter is the entry-level software engineering job is going to go away. You're going to start already at the level 2 or senior software engineering position, which many startups in Silicon Valley and New York are only looking for. So they're looking for someone who already has more mature technical skill, and that doesn't mean you have to be like 30 years old. You can actually be 20 years old, or like even 19, or 21 or 22, like recent grad. But if you have that technical maturity or that portfolio, they will take you in and they will pay you money. They're not being if they think you're worth it, they will definitely bet on you because you're betting on them. It's very exciting to work at these startups, so would definitely love to make a referral. Just message me on LinkedIn, and if you're already a Hester alumni or resident, would love to put a word out there. So feedback. Just before we begin our app, would love to get feedback from folks here. So, okay. So here is a form for you to leave some feedback for Headstarter. So if there's any form, any suggestions we have as we're planning on launching something very big this summer, would love to hear your thoughts or anything you would like to see change, or interested. Someone I know has shared a question. Is there going to be, I'm looking at your questions. So any questions or thoughts you guys have, feel free to share on the form.
Hey, sorry, man. What's up?
Hey, Hassan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Love to see you, man. What's going on? What's the latest?
Nothing much, dude. Just working. What about you?
Good, good, good. All right, so Hassan, I'm just gonna cut to it, quickly introduce you, and then what we're thinking is you're gonna start off a live mock interview with someone who I've just also made a panelist. His name is Ishan, and you can choose whatever coding template you want. So, just as some quick introduction to Hassan, first of all, Hassan is an incredible friend of mine. He lives here in Silicon Valley, originally from yeah, University or UP, like Pittsburgh in And the university he's from, the Simplify repo where all the internships and full-time jobs are posted. So Hassan is from that school. But this is a while back. So Hassan graduated school back in 2018, 2017.
2018.
2018, yeah, 2018. And since then, he's been an intern at Amazon. He's been a senior software engineer at Microsoft, and then more recently, a senior software engineer at Google. He had some incredible offers at uh, a lot of different places, and he chose to leave all that to pursue a career in entrepreneurship. So today, Hassan is a co-founder of a company called Exaflop Labs. They're a boutique AI research firm, and they are having some incredible clients, Fortune 500 clients. They build different voice AI and other technologies for them. So Hassan, I'd love for you to maybe quickly introduce yourself as you, to whoever we're mock interviewing, as if you are their interviewer, and you can talk about your current background, what you do, but then you can turn on into Google Interviewer mode, and you can choose if you want to share Google Doc or whatever other coding platform.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Yasin. I
Yeah.
don't have anything really to add, just I'm a software engineer and yep, that's about it. Yeah, so I guess we happy to start.
Yeah.
I
Go
just
ahead.
came off an interview, so this is very timely.
Were you the interviewer or interviewee?
I was interviewing, yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So you're interviewing people like every week.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Ishan, so Ishan, let's take you from more of a student perspective. I know you're also dabbling to entrepreneurship nowadays, but I know you've done quite a few lead code problems. And you're a Berkeley grad, is that correct?
Yeah, can you hear me all right? I
I
haven't
can hear
checked if
you
my mic is good.
perfectly fine. Yeah, I can hear perfectly fine.
Yeah, I am a Berkeley grad, but I didn't study CS. I studied business, which I really did not like.
Okay, amazing. So why don't we freeze as if I am not here? So I'm going to go off a video, and then Hassan, you take on the interview as if Ishan is your candidate. I've asked Ishan, should we solve the problem for him? And he said, no, throw anything at me. So feel free to really share and spite him. And I'm hoping everyone here in the audience is loving this. And feel free to share your questions. And Hassan, we're going to give you about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna come and interrupt it, and you're just gonna give us feedback, like what you thought of Ishan and whatnot. Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna go off the screen. Wait, Hassan, you're on mute.
Uh, hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Sean. Yeah, I was just getting a Google Doc. How can I share this with you? I don't want to put it in the chat because anyone can. Uh,
Right. If you want to text it to me, I think we have a little
oh,
iMessage
yeah,
chat. I can
or-
open that on my computer. I'm using a Mac.
give me 1 second. I'll text that to you. Okay, I sent it to you. You should get it. And then
Okay, I don't see it yet.
okay, it could not send message. Amazing. Okay, now it should have sent.
Okay, I see it. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to pull it up on my computer.
And Hassan, you can share your screen, or one of you guys can share your screen.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up a problem right now, actually. Okay, interesting. No problems for that. Okay. Yeah, so I guess normally we'll probably skip like more of the formalities, but like normally if I joined an interview, we would like I would introduce myself and then I would ask Ishan to introduce himself and like maybe go through like some of his background. But we can probably just jump right into like the technical portion. Um, yeah, so I actually had a friend who just interviewed at like a voice AI company and they asked him this question. So I guess I'll dump it in the Google Doc. Oh, are you not able to, you don't have
I
access?
just requested edit access.
Oh, okay, I see. Nice. Okay, now can you access it?
Let me refresh. Yep.
Okay, so, oh, I guess one of us should share. Let me share my screen. Uh, okay. Can you see? Can you guys see?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, so basically the question is like, let's say I have a hash map or like a dictionary, whatever language you want, I don't really care. And basically you should be able to set a value. And you should also be able to, so you should be able to set a value. And then if you override a value, so like if you have like, I don't know, like HM equals, I guess like A, and that goes to like 5, I should then be able to do HM dot set A and then 6. And HM, so then what should actually happen is I should be able, like this should cause a snapshot. And so I can then later go hm.get, and I can either do like A0 would give me 5, whereas hm.get A1 would get me 6. So this is basically the snapshot version. I hope that makes sense. Right. And here I'm like providing like the snapshot ID. Yeah, so basically it'd probably be like the params would be like key snapshot version. This should be optional though. So like I should simply be able to say hm.get by default, and this should result in the latest version. Yeah, I guess if you have any questions, like feel free, but basically I'm looking for a class that does this functionality. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can we assume the inputs are well formed? Like, what if I call hm.get a1, but we haven't inserted the like 1th indexed value yet? Should we throw an error, or can we just assume that won't happen?
I guess let's assume that I guess for now, let's assume that won't happen. Yeah, I guess let's make
Okay.
it easy for now.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. And you want a class implementation. So I'll write a class and
It's
then
up to you.
expose these two methods.
It's up to you. You can do whatever
Okay.
you.
Let's just kind of write it as a class for now. I'm gonna use Python.
Sure.
So we'll have class, I'll just call it my hash map. And then we're gonna make an initialize. There might be some weird capitalization here. Oh, does not like double underscore. I'll just put single ones.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
so,
Google Docs.
okay, so and then we're gonna pass that for now, and then we're gonna have a set method, which is going to take a like the key, and then we'll say value, that the value is optional. And then we're gonna also have a get, or the value is mandatory. And then we're gonna have a get method, which is also going to do the same thing. This time the value is optional. Okay, so the thought here is that we need to store everything, and we can't ever like clear or evict values, because at any time when you call get, you're gonna want access to a certain value potentially. And I think a good data structure for this, because we're calling it by an index, like get the 0th index for A, get the first index for A, is we'll just store the values in an array. But importantly, it's going to be easier to implement the logic if you store the values in an array, but you make one array for every possible key. And so I think what kind of is nice about Python is we could probably just use something called a default dictionary, which I'll explain in a second, but that would look like this. And then, so we'll say, we'll initialize this to a default dictionary of type list. And that means when you insert, when you append values, like initially, it just assumes that every value is an empty list. So if I do like self.hm of a append some value, it's just going to insert this into an empty list. So this just kind of makes the syntax nice. You don't have to worry about initializing things to empty lists.
Sure.
And that's kind of all we need. So let's be explicit. This is going to map keys to a list of snapshotted values. And when we set, are you going to be, I guess we're going to be setting, like if we're setting 0, I guess it's not always in order. It could be set like the 3rd index first and then the 2nd index after.
No, I would say like we're always going to be ordered. So like the first time I set, it'll be 0. The next time I
Okay.
set version 1, then like,
Okay.
But I can get any index.
Right. That makes sense. So in that case, this value parameter in set, if I'm not mistaken, is actually going to be unused, because we can
So
just
set is the value. Like you're saying, like I'm setting key A to 6.
Oh yes, right. Okay, sorry. That makes sense. Okay, so in that case, we will just do self.hm of our key, and then we're gonna append the value. And so that would be like if we set key A to 6, the bucket for A now looks like this, right? And then if
Okay.
later you call like another set, we're gonna add on that next value. Maybe you set to 2 or something like that.
Okay,
And
sure.
then to actually get the value, we can just say bucket, grab
Mhm.
that bucket, and then we're gonna just return um and this is more like an index, correct? Or our get call is calling an index. Is that true?
So it depends what you want set to return.
Well, what is that? Just have to return anything or
Uh,
based on the specification?
uh, it's up to you, based on like what you think would be like a good interface for like a someone to use this.
Uh-huh.
Um, but
Yeah,
probably
okay.
return like some sort of snapshot ID or like an index or something to tell you
Right.
insert it into.
Sorry, I just want to be clear. So when you're doing get A of 0, that's like saying what was the first element that A was ever set to. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're getting
Okay.
the zeroth snapshot of
Right.
A.
Okay. So in that case, I'll get back to the set return value, but in that case, we can just return the bucket of that index. So if we set A
Mhm.
to 6, we're going to have this array of length 1. And then if we call get on A with index 0, um, it's just going to grab into that array and pull out that 6. And then if index is, let's just say this is not like exactly the most well formed, but we'll just say like kind of if index is none, like maybe there was no index or we force you to pass a none, then I believe the default was just to return the latest value. Is that correct?
Yeah, the default is to return the latest value. Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll put that over here. If indexed is none, we can just return the last value in that bucket like that. And then for the set, I think I mean, there's a few ways to do it. You could just return true if successful. You could return the set value. Maybe you could return the entire snapshot array as well. I think those all kind of make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what is the so like what are you looking at in terms of like time complexity here, like memory complexity? Like
Mhm.
what are you thinking?
So for memory complexity,
Mhm.
fundamentally in this problem, we need to store all of the values because at any time you're going to be able to retrieve arbitrary values. And so our memory is basically going to just be like the total number of values ever inserted. So it's really like the number of calls we've made to set. Um, and there could like the number of unique keys in the set call is going to determine how many keys are in our hash map, but then also every unique value is going to kind of contribute to that memory. So really it's just the number of total set calls.
Mhm.
For the time complexity, everything's O of 1 because it's a hash map. And the way hash maps are implemented, you're going to have O of 1 access. So initialization is O of 1, every set call is O of 1, and then every get call is O of 1 as well.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Um
Well, I guess, yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, this is basically like exactly what I want to see out of like this question. Yeah, basically it's just testing like basic like data structures. There is a variant of this question that forces you to use like trees as your value. Like instead of using an array, you have to use a tree. But I forget what that variant was, but that's what I was trying to find. Yeah. But yeah, this looks yeah, like in my opinion, this looks like really good. Is there anything that you think you could like, let's say if you wanted to have to write just the latest, let's say you just wanted to get like the latest now, just like the latest changes from every, so like all like if I pushed hm dot set, like I set it to 5 and then I set it to 6. Let's say I wanted a endpoint that gave me the latest changes of all the updates. Like what would that method look like?
When you say the latest changes of all the updates, what do you mean
Like the
exactly?
newest
Like,
snapshot, the latest snapshot of every key.
oh, okay, so you just want the latest value for every single key. So maybe like a kind of def get all sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's going to, what we're going to do is let's maybe return a hash map where we map every key to the latest value. And then so we can say return hash map is this like empty hash map. And then for every key in our hash map, we're going to iterate. And then we're going to say bucket. We're going to grab that from the key. And then the last value.
Mhm.
And then we're going to set the returned hash map key to be the last value. And then we're going to finally return that hash map. And then the time complexity for this would be the number of unique keys in our hash map, which in the worst case is the number of times we've ever called set.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, this is yeah, this is great. Um, yeah, like very happy with like what you did here. Um, don't really have like any strong feedback here. Like in my opinion, this is like a great result. This would probably be like the like a first round or like a phone screen interview, just like class fundamentals, data structures, and like I like you nailed memory and time complexity. So like yeah, I would say like you crushed this interview basically.
That's amazing. Can we get like a round of applause for Ishan? Or like let's just show some love in the chat. Yeah, so drop some W's in the chat. Drop some W's in the chat. There we go. Awesome. So Ishan, do you have any feedback for Hassan as an interviewer?
I think that it kind of depends what you're going after. I guess it's hard for me to say. It really just depends what as an interviewer what you're seeking.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of interviewers where they set out a very clear specification, or I think what Hassan did was he kind of made it ambiguous. You can implement it as a class. You can kind of figure out your own spec. So I don't know. I don't feel like I'm in a position to give really good feedback what he could improve as an interviewer because I haven't had enough experience doing that myself. But that's just one of my observations for I've seen different styles in different interviews.
Awesome. So Ishan, we're gonna put you back in as an attendee. So thank you so much for being down for this. I really appreciate it. I recorded a little snippet of you coding live. I'll share with you.
Awesome. Sure. Thanks.
Okay. So guys, Hassan, do you have if you were like a Google interviewer right now, and now is like I'm like your direct like report, right? And you tell me about Ishan, how would you present Ishan to me? Or what would you say about Ishan? What do you remember about him?
Yeah, I mean, for Ishan, we'd probably say like he's like a strong candidate for the next round based on that interview. This would be like probably like there'd probably be like another round of interviews following this. But like
Okay.
given this performance, like he would definitely move to the next round. Yeah.
Do you have to like calibrate him on different buckets? Like, for example, communication, problem solving, googliness, and other things?
Yeah, you do, but like honestly, like most of them don't really matter except like do you like fundamentally like the only thing that matters is do you solve the problem? And then we have a googliness interview, so that would be evaluated separately. And like most people don't really care except like if you don't solve the problem, it doesn't matter. Like you're not passing. If you solve the problem, then you are probably going to get through. And then
Okay.
obviously the googliness interview is like its own separate interview. It's not like a technical, it's usually just like a very informal, like behavioral. Yasin, are you still there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you.
So okay, we have someone else in the chat, or someone else who has volunteered. So I'm gonna see if he is actually ready to go. Uh,
Wait, let me find I guess we'll try to,
you know we have a whiteboard here.
oh, in here. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Zoom can let you do like a whiteboard. So, you know, this would be interesting to have like a little.
Yeah.
I wonder if panels can collaborate. So we'll see that. So the person I want to bring up to this panel right now. By the way, how's let's see, Mendel.
Do you want to do another question? I
Yeah.
have harder ones if we want to do that.
Um, we can do another question. We can do another question. So, Mendel, do you want to go up?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna make you a panelist, and Hassan, actually, I have a question that I would like you to ask Mendel, so I'll text that to you. Okay, Hassan, I texted you the question.
Uh, let me see if I got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess, yes, can you send Mendel the link? We'll just use the same link.
Link for
The
the
Google Doc.
question
Yeah, the
or Google
Google.
Docs.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I don't think I can. You have to share it to him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, actually, you texted it to me. Yes, I can send it to Mendel. Yes.
Yeah.
I see you made it. So Mendel, I'm going to share with you a Google Doc link, okay?
Sounds good.
I have to access request. Okay, Mendel, do you see that you have
Okay,
access?
here we go.
Oh,
Hey,
sorry.
Yeah.
can you edit it?
Nice.
My question.
I cannot edit. It says request edit access.
Yeah, please do that.
There we go.
Friday, the recording is actually already live. On access recording, it already is live in there.
Okay, can you edit it now?
It's on YouTube.
I still cannot. It says your access to the file has been updated. Okay, let me reload. There we go.
Nice. Okay, got it. So here's the question. Uh, I'll paste that at the bottom, yeah. So like given a string, find the length of the longest substring without like duplicate characters. So like if you have like ABC, your longest substring would be ABC. If you had like A, your longest substring would be A. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want, I guess I can find you some more examples. So like here, like this substring, like this substring here would be WKE, for example. Like this WKE is the longest substring here with only unique letters. Um, yeah, so you can, I guess like A, does the question make sense? And then B, you're welcome to uh
Yeah, Hassan, you want to share your screen?
oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess just some clarification questions. Is it possible that we could be dealing with an empty string?
Um, I mean, yeah, let's say sure. You might get an empty.
Okay. And I guess any other odd input requirements or anything else that I should be expecting. Um, yeah.
Um, I think you can always expect like you're gonna get a string. That's about the only requirement.
Okay.
I guess maybe
Sounds good.
I guess it's any valid Unicode character can be in the string.
Okay. So I'll solve this one with Java. It's the language I'm most familiar with.
Nice.
So I'll do this with a function. And just to clarify, if I'm creating this with a function, can I create it with the function returning the max length for that substring?
Can you repeat your question?
Sorry. So I plan on solving it just with a function as opposed to like a full class solution.
Oh yeah, that's fine. The function's fine.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So I think that a naive approach could be used to solve this, where you can just brute force it and solve it in O of n squared by just continuously comparing characters and looping for each character. But I think we can do this a bit better. I think if we use a sliding window approach, we can solve this in O of n runtime. And that's the solution that I'm going to go for.
Nice. Would it be
Okay.
O of n or would it be O of n times the longest substring?
I believe it should be 2 of n if I'm using essentially 2 pointers to be able to go through the string. I don't think either pointer should perform more than n operations. So I think the solution that I have in mind should be about 2 of n, which should break down to an O of n solution.
Okay.
So so first I'll need a variable to keep track of the max substring, and also a left pointer, which we're going to start at the 0th index. And then I'm going to use a hash set in order to keep track of repetitive characters. And then I'll loop through the string. And let's call this one right. Be a bit more descriptive. And at each point, I want to grab yeah, it's outputting a bit odd, to grab the character at each spot within the string. So let's save that with a variable we'll call cur, and cur will equal the element at right.
Mhm.
And let's add cur to the set. And then at each point, I should be able to, okay. And now I'm using the left and right pointer to use the sliding window approach. And the way I'm going to actually implement that here is that whenever we find a character within the set, I'm going to want to move over the left pointer up until the occurrence of the flagrant character, and then start counting again from that point on. And I'll use a while loop to do that. Contains cur. Then the set will then remove the character at the left pointer while that condition is still in place. And then increment left. And then here we'll add it into the set. We can calculate max at each point to see if we have a new max. We can use math.max in order to check if that's the case. Equals our current max, and let's compare that to what we are currently dealing with to see if we have a new max. And then return max. All right. And I believe this solution should run in O of n time with O of n space as well.
Yeah, I mean, this largely looks right to me. Obviously, you should probably just run it through like the leak code checker to confirm, but I mean, like largely the two-pointer approach is like the classic approach for this problem. Um, yeah, I mean, like nothing like immediately jumps out at me as like, oh, like wrong, but like this looks like generally this is probably fine. Maybe there's like an off by one error edge case here that I'm not like, who knows, but like I would just throw it through the like test cases essentially. But yeah, I mean, at a high level, this looks good. Like I know that this won't come,
Awesome.
like obviously you have like some syntax errors here, but like who cares, right?
Yeah, I think I'm missing a semicolon.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely over there.
but
Yeah,
like obviously like that's not that relevant.
right.
Yeah, like otherwise this looks good to me. I did, are you sure that this is O of n? Because this while loop will run while I set contains curve.
I
So
believe it should be
run,
technically 2 of n
oh yeah,
because
it's O
each of
of
the
n.
pointers is going to potentially run throughout the length of it.
Yeah, now I got you.
Yeah,
Yep. So yeah, so O of n makes sense to me. Cool.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, no, I mean, like fundamentally, it's kind of a question of for interviews is like, do you get the problem right? And that's almost like all that matters. So
Great.
yeah, like would be very happy with this performance on an interview.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Do you have some feedback for Hassan, Mendel?
Yeah, I'm saying I haven't gone through too many technical interviews at this point. So I guess to know what the standard um, would be, I guess I'm not entirely familiar with. But I would say just based off of talking with him, I think it went pretty well. He gave me some good feedback. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
I can
And
I can do another one, Yasin, if you have another person.
oh, uh, does someone want to go up? This is completely on the go. Anyone here wanna go up? Okay. Uh, okay. Daniel,
Right, I'll remove myself, but thank you
yeah,
guys
I
very
saw
much.
Daniel
Very much. Thank you for being interviewed live.
yeah. Guys, do you guys want to rather have Hassan answer your questions or someone else go for a mock interview? So would you rather ask Hassan a question uh, or another interview? What is most helpful for you guys? Someone said I want to see Hassan do a leak code art. Questions, both. Can I have a mock interview? Um, all right, just because of time, we're just gonna ask Hassan questions because Hassan's time is very valuable. We can maybe do this again. But Hassan, do you see there's a Q&A chat?
Yeah, I can join.
Okay. So you can just take some questions and answer them from the Q&A chat. And guys, if you guys have some questions for Hassan, feel free to. Oh, most of these questions looks like some of them are for me, but it's like Hesser related. You can skip, but if it's like about you, like something you can answer, feel free to answer them. So feel free to repeat the question out loud. So if you guys
Yeah.
have any questions for Hassan, please drop the questions in the
Okay,
Q&A
so
chat, please.
someone asked, can you see if someone uses interview coder? I don't, I guess not, because I don't know if anyone's ever used an interview coder. Yeah, I don't know. Which data structures are most common? Hash maps are the most common data structure. What's your advice to new grads? I don't know. Like, I guess try and get a referral as opposed to applying through the normal process. What do you recommend to do when you don't know the solution to a problem right away? That's kind of like the purpose is that like you probably don't know, like ideally for an interview, you don't know like the problem right away. And like you will like iterate to a solution. So like a lot of times the like we just interviewed Mendel and like he kind of had this immediate like O of n pass solution. Like ideally as an interviewer, you would prefer to see him start with the O of n squared. Well, you wouldn't prefer it, but like if he started with an O of n squared solution and then he iterated to the O of n solution, like that actually tells you more about Mendel than him just jumping to the O of n solution. So it's fine to like have an optimal solution, assuming you eventually get to an optimal solution. How do you recommend going about LeetCode for a beginner? There's this thing called LeetCode patterns. That would probably be the best way to go about it. But basically, you'll learn about like the two-pointer approach, which Mendel did. You'll learn about like other strategies. I forget what all the patterns are now. There's a bunch. There's like backtracking. There's recursion. There's dynamic programming. You'll learn to like recognize the patterns from the LeetCode question, and then you'll be able to probably do much better in your LeetCode. How do you suggest preparing for these interviews? Just do a lot of LeetCode if it's a LeetCode question. Some companies run different processes, so I would probably figure out like the company you're targeting, what process they try and run. Are there any dead giveaways that make you make up your mind when and write off a candidate when interviewing? I guess like if you get the question wrong, it's like there's not much anyone can really do. Tips for securing internships at FANG. Apply via referral because obviously they get a million applications, so you need to kind of find another route as opposed to just applying. Are these types of questions usually asked for entry level suite? Yeah, I would say very entry level suite. Yeah, easy, medium, for very entry level. Obviously depends on like the sort of caliber company you're applying to. They can get into hards as well for entry level. What's the best way to prepare for technical interview over the summer? Lots of LeetCode. What's the flow for solving LeetCode interviews? I don't know what that question means. After hash maps, what should be studied the most? Trees. Binary trees is probably the second most common. How important is system design? For entry level, not that important, but for higher levels, it becomes very important. If an interview asks a LeetCode hard, do they take it into account that it is indeed a hard, or do they score it at the same scale as any other level of question asked? That's honestly like a really good question. Unfortunately, they probably don't really care that it's a hard and they asked you a hard. Like fundamentally, it just comes down to like, did you answer the question? And if you couldn't, like, you're probably not going to get through to the next round. And someone else at that same level in the interview process or the same round of the interview might have gotten an easy and they would get through. So like interviews don't really take it into account, unfortunately. How do I get a referral? Ask Hassan. That's the best way. What programming languages do you recommend for interviews? Whichever one you're strongest, probably Python. What's the best thing I can do this summer as an upcoming junior if I don't have an internship? That's a good question. I don't know. Yasin probably would have a better suggestion for you than me. How much to focus on LeetCode when preparing for a role as an entry-level AI software engineer or ML engineer? Probably AI software engineer entry level is probably just going to be a lot of LeetCode. Like, I don't think you're probably going to be doing like any, like I don't think they're going to really ask you any like ML specific or neural network specific questions. It'll probably just be LeetCode. What do you prefer if a candidate stated that they've seen the question before? Like as an interviewer, yes, but as a candidate, you should never say you've seen a question before. You should just take the good luck. Can you suggest any platforms for mock interviews? LeetCode. Are those questions for entry level positions? Yeah. What are the top 5 important topics for technical interview questions? Like data structures, basic algorithms like breadth first search, depth first search. Yeah, but fundamentally it's just data structures and then like the basic algorithms. What's the hardest question you've ever seen or asked? I know like a lot of interviews these days at like really tough companies will ask dynamic programming questions. Those are usually pretty difficult. I'm not sure like what the meta is today. Like a lot of times there'll be like metas in like programming questions and like what people ask during LeetCodes. A few years ago it was dynamic programming. I'm not sure what it is today. What's your perspective on pursuing a career in front-end engineering? I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know that many people that only do front end. Like most people eventually kind of widen their breadth and become like more full stack or do full front end and back end. I don't know that many people that have only ever done front end. So I guess I'm not really sure. How do you verbalize your thoughts well / show interviewers you have a great thought process? You can kind of just like talk through the problem while you're answering it, but like, I don't know, like you're probably overthinking it. Like honestly, you can say like, oh, I did this because of that, or like you can just give it like a very high level like overview. But honestly, like if you came into my interview, you said nothing and you just solved the problem, like I'd be happy. So I don't think people really like I know people talk about like thought process, but I honestly don't think it matters that much. What to do when completely stuck while solving a problem? Honestly, that'll like inevitably happen, and you just can't answer the question, and that interview just goes badly. Like it's like I mean, fundamentally, you just have to think of this as like a numbers game. Like you are going to apply to 100 jobs, some of them convert into an interview, and some percentage of those you pass. So it's just like a funnel. Inevitably, you're going to fail some interviews. Some interviews, it's just is what it is. I number of leak code questions to solve to crack these FANG interviews. I did 600 personally. Your mileage may vary, either more or less. Have you ever caught someone cheating? No, I've never really tried that hard though. Um, Would you prefer a candidate with only 2 very solid projects or more leak code? Yeah, actually, like your projects don't really matter. Like once you get in the interview, like no one will ask you a question about your projects. Like it's just going to be a leak code question, at least for FANG. Like your projects are basically entirely irrelevant in the interview process. Maybe to getting the interview, they're useful in terms of like impressing the hiring manager and you get an interview or the recruiter. But in the interview, like you're never going to get asked a question about like a side project. Is it okay to ask for a few minutes to think about a question before diving into a problem? Yeah, that's absolutely like 100% okay. Um, Types of projects you've seen help candidates stand out. Like honestly, like I don't think like the level of project you would have to put together to stand out is like going to be insane. Like if you put, you know what I mean? Like it's probably just worthwhile for you to be better at leak code than to like do like a crazy project. But obviously, like if you do a project and you have users, like that will obviously make you stand out. If you're doing revenue, that'll make you stand out. If it's like a really interesting project where you're like doing something like novel, that'll help you stand out. Like the level of difficulty that requires versus just like doing a couple hundred leak codes, like it's a total magnitude of difference. So you might as well just do the couple hundred of leak codes. Should you ask the interviewer if you're on the right path while solving a question? Probably not. You can ask for a hint if you feel like you're stuck. But the interviewer will probably like give you some like advice or point or like say something to kind of indicate like whether they think you're going in the wrong direction or not. But I wouldn't explicitly ask. Can you use a whiteboard during a virtual Google interviewer? Is typing in the IDE all you get? So for the Google interview, you do all your coding in Google Drive, and then you have to use the Google Drive whiteboard for the system design. How do you divide up your time for a problem? Honestly, I try and spend as much of the time basically like we would get typically like when we were doing the Google interviews, you'd get like 2 questions. You have a 45-minute interview. So it's basically just code for problem 1, 20 minutes, problem 2, 20 minutes. And hopefully you pass both of them. So there isn't much time in terms of like clarification or anything. It's just they give you a problem and you just start coding. Is it okay to ask an interviewer for any hints while solving the question? Yeah, if you feel like things are not going well and you don't really know what to do, you can ask for a hint. But obviously like that is like a negative, right? Like I would mark down that someone asked for a hint. Is leak code the only interview questions you'd be asked? No, other companies run different interview processes. Like some companies will have you like pull a repo and like they'll have like a test suite, and then like the test won't pass, and then you'll have to like fix the tests. Some other companies will ask you to like implement like totally different like compiler schemas. That was kind of an interesting one. But no, not all are, the majority are leak code, but there are companies that do other things. How many rounds of interviews? I think it's typically like 2 or 3. So like you do the phone screen, then you might do like a virtual thing. And then you might do another round. Usually like you have like a full day of interviews, which is like 5 interviews in one day or 4 interviews in one day. And I guess that's considered like one round. But like you'll probably go through like 6 total interviews per company. If a technical interviewer is composed of domain questions and leak code solving problems, doesn't matter much if you fail the leak code problem. Do you still have a chance if you fail it? I would say it probably depends on the company, but if you fail the leak code, like I would say your chances are pretty slim. What are your thoughts on having a summary at the top of a resume? Yeah, I don't think you should waste your resume space with a summary. You should just have like your education and then like your work history and then projects and stuff like that. I don't think a summary will really be useful, especially if you're like a new grad. What would be your take if a candidate described an algorithm for an optimal solution but was unable to complete the coded solution within the time? Like in my opinion, that it depends. Kind of like, I mean, that one's like more touch and go. Like if they implemented the non-optimal algorithm and then said like, oh, here's like what I would do for the optimal algorithm, and then got halfway through coding it, and it seemed like, and if they like, it seemed like they would be able to code it, like that would probably be okay. Um, but if they just like said here, like here's what the optimal thing would be, and then the time ran out and they couldn't, and they didn't start coding it, the optimal one, it would probably be a fail. Does Google require you to pass all rounds of interviews, or is there a buffer? So Google, I think, they changed the process recently. But when I was doing it, I think you have like 5 on-sites. And basically, as an interviewer, you can say strong hire, weak hire, strong, or like weak pass, and then like strong, or it's like weak no hire, strong no hire. Basically you can't get any strong no hires, and if you get one weak no hire, you basically have to get like 1 or 2 strong hires, and then they essentially have to vouch for you to be hired. So that's kind of how it works. If I graduated last year and still haven't landed a new grad or entry job yet, will this affect me during my candidate screening? I don't think so, just because like everyone kind of knows the market's not like great right now. So I think it should probably be fine. Like I don't think anyone would hold it against you. Yeah, fundamentally, if you do well in the interview, I think people would be happy to take you. Are all referrals weighted equally? No. Like if you, obviously if like the CEO refers you, then like the recruiter will definitely follow up on that versus like if like you're at a massive company and a software engineer refers you. Do asking questions at the end of the interview really matter? Not for the technical interview, but for the behavioral, yes. But they don't like judge you. It's more just like, it's more like an assessment of like, is this person actually interested in like this specific job at this specific company? Not necessarily like I don't like, it's such a minor thing that I don't think it's probably not going to shift like your performance in the interview if you don't really ask any questions. As a recruiter at Google, what are the stuff they tell you to avoid in candidates? I'm not a recruiter at Google, or I never was a recruiter, so I have no idea. Does Google have filtering criteria based on university and or past work experience? Google definitely has like colleges and companies we prefer to recruit from. But it's not like Google's such a big company and has so many resources that they'll basically interview everyone because like they need like people. So it's not like oh, you didn't go to like Harvard, so you're never going to get a job at Google. Like they'll interview everyone, but we definitely have preferences in terms of like we have like pipelines built with certain companies or certain colleges where like you get out of college, then you have like a streamlined way to an interview at Google. But like I wouldn't use like that's not necessarily like a really like a strong blocker for anyone. Does Google require to pass all the test cases in coding assessment? How long we have to wait for the results? The online coding assessment. I don't remember. I'm not sure. Could you suggest a platform where I could give mock interviewers and get feedback? Yeah, there is a website that lets you do that. I forget what it's called though. I don't know. Yasin, do you know like what the website is that lets you do like mock interviewers with other people? Yeah, Pramps is it.
Pram.
I've actually used that before. So, how do you stand out in the interview, or what makes someone a strong candidate? You get the question right, like very quickly, is basically the best way to stand out. Bring a page and a half resume or just a single page with more concise. You should really just be if you're a new grad, you should really just be a single page. Like honestly, you should always be a single page unless you're like a PhD researcher and you have like citations you need to put on your resume. Should freshmen do personal projects or leak code if time is tight? It kind of depends on your goals, but like if you're targeting FANG, probably leak code. How to get more interviews. That sounds like probably like a funnel problem. You probably want to just apply more or do more referrals. Like you need like that's not like a leak code problem. That's you need to get in front of more recruiters. Have you ever met any software engineers without a college degree while working? Yes, I've met them at FANG. I met like my coworker at Google. She had a degree in chemistry, and then she like pivoted into software. I know other people at Google that just had high school degrees. Yeah, they don't necessarily really care. Is the interview process different for new grads versus 2-year experience? Not fundamentally different. Like the questions will be slightly different, but like there'll be harder questions and it'll be system design as well. But like you're going to go through like the 5 or 6 rounds of interviews. Thoughts on edX computer science class certification? I don't know. Would you pass a candidate who only came up with a non-optimal / brute force solution? Yes. The thing is that Google is like there's so many candidates that like there is inevitably going to be someone who came up with the optimal solution. So if you came up with like a brute force / non-optimal one, I would pass and take the candidate that did come up with the optimal one. Can you get multiple referrals? You can. I'm not sure if it helps with your application. You'd probably want to talk to a recruiter about it. I'm not sure. Do certifications matter? Not for FANG. Not for, I think it depends on like what your role is. I think like AWS has some like roles where they do want certifications, but for like general SWE roles at like most companies, it doesn't. But if you're trying to do like Amazon tech consultant and you like go do forward deployed things, I think they do want certifications for that. Yeah. Do I think applying for more than 3 positions at the same company at the same time is bad? No, I think it's fine. You'll probably just go to different recruiters and see different hiring managers. It's probably going to be fine. How do you prepare for system design questions? What are popular questions? That is more difficult to prepare for. There are some books about like data like systems. You can read like designing data intensive applications, I think is the book. Uber has like a pretty good system engineering blog. Netflix also has like a systems engineering blog. There are a few papers you can read. The DynamoDB paper is probably like the canonical like distributed systems paper. Twitter has a good like presentation on how they built like the Twitter fire hose. So that would also be a good thing to read or watch. It's a video. There are other, I mean, you can always like read random papers about like Lamport clocks or like how Google built their spanner database, right? Like you can just read kind of like the most seminal papers in distributed design, and you would get a better understanding of system design. Are there cybersecurity opportunities there? At Google? Yes. I don't know much about cybersecurity, though, so definitely the wrong person to ask. If my code passes all the test cases, do I automatically pass the interview? For the online assessment, I'm not sure. I don't know like what they look for. Have you seen candidates do well in the interviews but struggle doing the job when hired? Yeah, but that's mostly like a culture thing. And usually those candidates can just go find jobs at like other places that are more culturally, that are more stronger culture fit. Yeah, but I would say that like it's mostly like I don't know, like that doesn't really, I wouldn't say that's really a concern. Like if you get the job, if you like they hired you because they think you'll be successful at it, like odds are you can probably be successful at it. And it's mostly just like, oh, I actually didn't decided like I don't like want to do this anymore. And then you can go find a different job. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Is it a negative or a plus if a candidate makes comments on their code during the technical interview to help their own personal understanding? I've never thought about a candidate commenting on their code. How do you most effectively grind LeetCode? Probably LeetCode patterns is probably your best bet.